Welcome to SPU 67D Principles of Management 1. My name is Felicia Frida Aiden Aqua. We're looking at Unit 4, Planning. We're going to focus our discussion today on Session 5, Nature of Strategic Planning. And by the end of this session, you should be able to distinguish between strategic plans and operational plans, describe the usefulness of successful strategic plans for organizations, explain the benefits of strategic planning, and explain how the Boston Consultancy Group BCG Group portfolio matrix aids managers in making strategic decisions. So what is strategic planning? We're saying that strategic planning actually looks at long-term plans, which is usually done by the top level management, the strategic level, and these are usually plans that it can depend on the type of organization and the size of it. Sometimes it could be 10 years or more, usually 10 years or more, but sometimes if it's a very small firm, a strategic plan could be like 5 years or even 6 years. So to kickstart, we're saying that strategic planning is a long range or long-term planning with deliberate focus on complex and competitive business environment. So the strategic planning, like I said, when we looked at the levels of levels of management and then their function, we realized that the top level is the one who is in charge of putting together the strategic plans, and they do that looking at the organization as a whole and also considering what the environment in which the organization finds itself. And so when it comes to strategic planning, it is more complex than operational plans. We're saying that a firm can survive and prosper if their managers are able to produce a competitive superior fit between the organization and the environment. And so competition is very key in there, and for us to be able to stay in competition or live and survive, then we need to do a lot of strategic planning to make sure that we are always ready for where we find ourselves. And so strategic planning actually defines the objectives as well as looking at both internal and external situations to formulate strategy, implement strategy, and evaluate the process and make adjustment to it. That is all about strategic planning. Now, when it comes to some definitions which people have given strategic planning, one is that strategic planning is the process by which members of an organization, which is usually the top level managers, envision the future and develop necessary procedures and operations to achieve that future. So the process by which organization, another definition is that it is a process by which an organization makes decisions and takes action to enhance its long-term process or performance. And that definition is that it is a planning process that deals with long-range goals, selection of activities to achieve those goals, and the allocation of resources to achieve those goals. And there's another definition which is also saying that strategic management simply means pursuing the organization's mission by aligning its resources with the demands to its environment. So like I made mention, strategic planning is done by the top level management and is usually looking at long-term goals of the organization, which could be 10 years or more, depending on the type of organization it is. Usually it looks at both within and outside the organization, looking at the organization as a whole together with environment, and that's what makes it a complex kind of planning as compared to operations planning. So when it comes to the strategic planning process, like any planning process, it starts with the goal formulation. And like we made mention, this goal is not just for within the organization. We're looking at the organization as a whole together with its environment it finds itself. You need to identify the current objectives and strategies. Once you have a goal, you need to put in place some sort of strategies to achieve that goal. They need to look at environmental analysis for opportunities and strengths, as well as the internal analysis for strengths and weaknesses. Because we made mention of the fact that strategic planning looks at both within the organization and outside the organization, you need to look out for what we call the SWOT analysis. So SWOT analysis is trying to look out for the strengths and weaknesses of the organization, as well as look at some of the threats and opportunities to the organization. Your strengths and weaknesses come from within your business. There are maybe you have employees who are qualified, who have worked with you for a long time. Maybe you have how do you call it? Some sort of equipment or things that give you advantage within your business to do or to be productive in there. Every business has its own weaknesses within. Maybe the kind of employees you have, they are high tech expertise who are like they are funding, or you need to pay them more, or maybe you are short of finances, or your finances is not good, or maybe you don't really have like very modern equipment or something. So within your business, you have your strength and your weakness. Outside there is your opportunities and threats. Opportunities are those things you can take advantage of. Threats are those things you'd have to find a way to mitigate or minimize it. So when it comes to strategic plan, another thing that has to do is that you need to make strategic alternatives and choice. And so we need to have a lot of alternative, plan A, plan B, plan C, and then look at which one is going to work, and then we pick the one we think we want to work with. Then we need to implement this for us to be able to control and evaluate alongside. So you evaluate and then you control in there as well. So some advantages of strategic planning is that first and foremost, it allows the firm to determine what needs to be done to maximize the future performance. We don't plan for the past, we plan for the future. Always keep that in mind. And so strategic planning should provide opportunities for managers to question the basic assumptions underpinning the firm's strategies, whether these assumptions are really still standing or they are not. So usually when we have you make your plans, there are some underpinning assumptions, some things that should hold for your plan to be effective. In a course, you always say with all things being equal, because there are some underlying assumptions you are holding to be constant for it to hold. For example, if you want to project into next year or something, all things being equal, you have hoped that there will still be political stability, because if there's a coup d'etat, your plans, you can't go on with it. If there's COVID-19 lockdown of the whole nation, your plans can't hold in. So you may have to put those assumptions in there to hold it for you. Disadvantages of strategic planning is that sometimes it fails to acknowledge the emerging nature of much of some strategic activities. So things keep changing in the, like we said, the business environment is very it keeps changing. It is not static. And so sometimes as managers, you may end up failing to acknowledge some of the emerging issues which are coming up, which you'd have to factor it in. And so your plans will come and then they are not able to solve most of the problems that were supposed to happen or you're supposed to have foreseen in the future. Too often, planning relies on regression-based forecasting procedures that merely extend present trends into the future. So like we made mention of earlier, when it comes to the tools and techniques, which is in the earlier session, some means of doing it is forecasting, and then you know that most of these strategic plans we base on past experiences or data we have to project into the future. And some of these things which are present now, they may not really be the same in the future. And so all of these can really limit the quality of the strategic plans you have, and then how effective or efficient they become at the end. So in this session, we'll be looking at the management function of planning. We've still looked at it, and we focus our discussion today on strategic planning in there as well. Thank you.